All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, the Everything School HQ. Joining me on this edition of the program, we've got Evan Sowards of 49ershub.com and Twitter celebrity extraordinaire. Evan, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. How was the Thanksgiving? What was the best part for you this holiday week?
We did a couple of Friendsgivings, so didn't go home, stayed here, but had all of our LA friends here. A lot of people didn't leave. And we did a traditional night and an Indian food night, and it was awesome.
Are you an Indian food guy? Have you had it before?
I mean, I've had Indian food before, but it was just something that they wanted to do, and it ended up working out really well. I feel like I haven't talked to you since one of Tennessee's biggest wins of all time and one of their biggest collapses of all time. And it's kind of weird for you to just jump on this podcast since then with the hat on and just ask me about turkey.
I mean, it's an Everything School. We were feeling pretty good. I got the graduation ring in this week. Vibes are up. Tennessee basketball looks like a Final Four team. They're really good. Tennessee finishing 10-2, first 10-win season since 2003. Things are good. Things are good here on Rocky Top. Yeah, the South Carolina loss 2 weeks ago was horrific for me and very scarring for the foreseeable future. But you know, we move, we ride, we go forward. That's what we have to do.
I got freezing cold taked about my Ducks, so, you know, it happens.
It happens. Have you ever been freezing cold take? Friend of the show and returning guest, Jarrett Bailey of literally every publication known to man that covers the NFL. Have you been freezing cold taked?
I have not. Plenty of people have tried to get me to be, but not to my knowledge have I been freezing cold taked, no.
Well, it's been a good week for you. The last couple weeks, it was rough for me because the Falcons lost to the Washington Commanders on Sunday afternoon, which was not great. Did not enjoy it. But you were I think you were on this very program, Jarrett, preaching about the upside and the belief in the Washington Commanders. And here they are. I did one of my favorite things to kill time is I love doing the ESPN NFL playoff machine.
It is very fun.
It's so much fun. And I did it yesterday for the first time, and the Commanders were in the playoffs for me. I played out the rest of the schedule, and I'm like, I think the Commanders are making the playoffs. Do you feel vindicated on that front, Jarrett?
I feel vindicated to a certain extent. The vision for me and with the Commanders being in the playoffs did not have Taylor Heineke at quarterback, although I'm not upset about that because he's an easy guy to root for. This is an easy team to root for. I mean, they've got a lot of good young talent on the roster. But yes, no, this has been they've won 5 of their last 6 or 6 of their last 7. So yeah, good for the Commanders and good for me to a certain extent, I guess. Yeah. By the way, Chase, I mean, I'm also wearing rings. Mine aren't graduation rings or anything. This one has a skull on it, if you wanted to see. And this one just says revenge.
I like it. Did you get a Stony Brook ring? Do they do something cool? Because they are not Stony Brook, excuse me, Slippery Rock. Do they do any cool rings?
Yeah, that's the revenge one.
Yeah, that's yeah. This was
never forget.
Yeah, that was no, honestly, I don't know. I didn't order any. I think they probably gave options to order a class ring. I didn't order one. Yeah, graduating in a COVID year was weird. I will say that.
Did you ever walk or no?
No, I didn't. My entire house got COVID the week that we were supposed to walk.
Man, did they give you the option to come back? I know a lot of folks did that the following semester. If you couldn't do it, to come back.
They did. I honestly didn't care.
You were over it. You're like, I'm out of college.
I walked during high school. I imagine it would just be the same thing, just longer with less people that I knew. So I was just like, you know what? Just give me my piece of paper. I'm chilling.
There you go. Well, there's another ring. I don't think you can get this one yet, Jarrett. I don't know where you're on the whole wedding ring aspect of this, but that's the other big one. It's all gold everything over here on my hands.
That's also the revenge ring. That's also the revenge ring.
Whenever I meet someone, I'll put that ring on this finger instead.
Yeah.
So yeah. No one. Not anytime soon, my friend. Not anytime soon.
There you go. What was the best thing you ate on Thanksgiving, Jarrett?
Sweet potato casserole. My mom makes oh my dude, I would go to war for it. So good. Yeah, the brown sugar on top, all the fixings and stuff. It's great.
I like it. Did you eat anything unhealthy, Evan?
Unhealthy?
Yeah, anything unhealthy where you just like, oh, this
Yeah.
Okay.
They did like a chocolate mousse pie that like literally had
That sounds
full
good.
cookies in it.
Uh-huh.
Like, full cookies. So that was pretty wild. And that was obviously a little bit different than what I'm used to. But I will say, like, Thanksgiving to me is one of my favorite holidays because of the food aspect of it. So like all bets are off on Thanksgiving. There, I have a hall pass. I will eat as much stuffing as which exists, or my body will physically allow. I love stuffing. So yeah, I had 2 very aggressive days of eating.
I learned that I've never had Indian food actually, so
I haven't either.
You wait, hold on. You've just never had any?
No, I've just never
it's never
had
come
any.
up. There's never been there's a lot of, like, when I lived downtown in Atlanta, there were a lot of Indian restaurants that were highly rated. I never took the plunge. I am someone, let me just open Pandora's box here. I have IBS. I am someone who has a very sensitive stomach. I will say that, and I have to be careful with my prebiotics, probiotics. I gotta be very careful with what goes in and out of my body. And spicy foods, generally speaking, and Indian food has always kind of scared me for how I would handle it health wise.
I mean, I will say, as a guy who really shouldn't be having much dairy,
no dairy, almond milk all day.
I can appreciate that, but like if you can get some chicken masala in your life, maybe like without as much spice, even it's Indian food's fire, and it's also rice and bread and things like that too. It's fire.
Okay, I like it. Speaking of fire, the San Francisco 49er defense pitching a shutout this week, Evan. I mean, what are you doing with this level of optimism? Jarrett and I's teams are both very much not heading towards the postseason. Then again, nobody wants to win the NFC South, so maybe the Falcons are still just going to be in it till the end of the season, which I don't know how to feel about that at this point. But the Niners, a big win yesterday. How are you feeling about where the 49ers are and just their Super Bowl chances? Because it seems like now the general wisdom, by and large, everyone's latched on. The Niners are the most complete team in the NFC.
You know, I would say this. I've been doing this podcast with you for a long time. And throughout this podcast, one of the things that I have consistently done is talk about how I thought the 49ers each year in and year out, would have, you know, the best defense in the NFL, right? I did it in 2019, 2021. I'm not surprised, obviously. What I would say as far as like this season and how things are going, like the last 2 games is like more along the lines of how I expected the season to go, right? They struggled early on. There was some weird stuff. Obviously losing your, Trey Lance is sad, but like this is what I was expecting. A team that has Fred Warner, who is the best linebacker in the NFL. I don't know whose echo that is. It's not mine.
That's what I'm just checking. It's not me. I don't know where it's coming from.
I'm assuming it's me then.
It's fine. No, but a team that has Fred Warner, who's arguably the best linebacker in the NFL, and Nick Bosa, who is arguably the best defensive end, although that list is huge of really, the best defensive ends. But one of in the NFL, Eric Armstead, you look at what they've done with the secondary, bringing Charvarius Ward in. If you look at obviously how strong their safety play has been, and they got lucky with some rookies, right? Chance Womack is playing fantastic. Drake Jackson seems like almost an embarrassment of luck or riches to be able to pick him in the second round, and he's like playing as well as any of the first round defensive ends taken. So this is, what I expected. The one thing that I would like to note is this is also with Eric Armstead, who's been out, like 8 or 9, 10 weeks. Hope to get back. I don't want to rant and ramble. Nothing too surprising here. Last week was incredible. This week was incredible. I would have loved to see the Niners score a little bit more, but Jimmy got hit in the knee. It looked really scary for a second. Elijah Mitchell just got announced is going to miss 6 to 8 weeks with another MCL sprain, which really sucks for him because he was he was coming back strong. McCaffrey got banged up, but it looks like he's going to play. Debo got hurt, right? So there's this game. There's so many little like dings and scratches and things like that where I was like, man, let's just get out of it alive. I remember I was on Twitter like yelling, like, stop playing Christian McCaffrey, like get Jordan Mason's ass in there. And who, by the way, is another undrafted free agent running back that seems to be playing really well. But it is everything you could hope for in an NFC that refuses to define itself with an actual best, right? Like every week, the Eagles lost the other week. They didn't, they almost lost to the Packers, which Packers are terrible this year. So I am happy. I'm happy that the 49ers are really going to prime themselves as one of the best teams in the NFC. And I think that they can definitely do that. They're still my pick to win the NFC. They're getting even better than I had originally expected them to be. But even still, I just don't think that the NFC is strong enough to stop a team that has this good of defense. Injuries, aside. I would like to say Jimmy Garoppolo is like genuinely playing some of the best. I mean, he's playing the best football he's ever played, period. Like yesterday, like he still has gone 4 weeks without throwing an interception, which is incredible. Yesterday they had would have been an interception. And you look at the film, you look at the penalty that was called to pull it back, and the defensive player bumped into the receiver, knocking him out of the way so he couldn't even get the ball, let alone defend it getting intercepted. And that was as close as he got to throwing an interception. Jimmy is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now, and that's an insane thing to say after drafting Trey Lance. Statistically speaking, some of like his advanced stats, he's like 5th highest passer rating of a quarterback of all time. He's obviously like I'm not going to go into that stuff because that's not my world. I'm not going to pretend like to be the nerd that just knows the numbers, but stats wise, he's killing it. He's having a fantastic season. And whether it's with Brandon Ayuk, whether it's with Christian McCaffrey, whether it's with George Kittle, you can't stop them. And then you, a Tennessee fan, probably loved the highlights yesterday because Juwan, is it Juwan or Juan?
Juwan.
Yeah. Juwan Jennings literally couldn't be stopped yesterday. He made
a tradition unlike any other. Juwan Jennings cannot be stopped.
He genuinely, like, when you think about what makes a good wide receiver 3, you're like, hopefully when the ball gets thrown to them, they'll just catch it. That's what you hope, right? It's not going to happen a lot, but whenever it does, he was not only catching things, but they were like incredibly impressive contested catches, 3rd down conversions. Like
poor man's Alshon Jeffrey.
Right. He is, but he's playing fantastic, and that's an embarrassment of riches, right? Like when you have Juwan Jennings playing that well, moving the chains that many times, while you still have Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle and all these things, it's incredible. The Saints defense, I think definitely needs a lot of love. Like they played probably one of the best defensive games against the 49ers all season. They really played well. And I think 13 points shows, considering the Niners have been scoring 30 and 40 points and things like that. I am very, very excited, and we'll talk plenty about next week against the Dolphins, Mike McDaniel versus Kyle Shanahan.
Where is it?
It's in Miami, I think.
Okay.
But did you guys hear the comments from Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson?
I did not.
Essentially, they were, obviously I think some of it got taken out of context, but they were basically like, we're happy we're here. It's a business. Raheem's like, hey, it's a business. I'm going where I need to go. Jeff was like, it's a business. I'm going to. But they did say
to get Elijah Mitchell in the fold next year.
They did say something to the effect of our quarterback is better and our weapons are better. And so a lot of the 49ers players have already gone on to Twitter, including Deebo Samuel himself, to take offense to that. And they're like, Raheem, you got to watch your mouth, dog. So we have an all-time great rivalry coming up with 2 fantastic teams. And I'm excited for that.
That's going to be fun. Is it a Sunday night game or do we know when it actually is? I hope that's a primetime game. Jarrett, do you agree with Evan's sentiment about the state of the Niners and what you've seen from them to this point and what Jimmy has done since taking over for Trey Lance?
Well, before I get into that, it is in San Francisco, 4:05 kickoff.
4:05. Okay.
So
there you go.
And in terms of San Francisco, Saturday, I pretty much said the way I feel to Grant Cohn when him and I did a quick stream together. To me, I think the 49ers, they're my favorite in the NFC right now. And I understand that Philadelphia has been kind of the darling of this offseason. I would even say that, if you wanted to say that the Eagles have a better roster than the 49ers, I would probably agree with that in terms of quarterback play. The fact that they just keep adding players that were really, really good like 2 years ago every other day. Like they just added Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh in consecutive days last week just because.
How did he play, by the way? How did Suh play?
So he's looking good. I mean, he's getting pressure on the quarterback, which is good. He's not like 2013 Ndamukong Suh, but for his age, and what they're asking him to do, he's a fine depth piece. So, the fact that and I wrote this in my newsletter, the 49ers and the Eagles are among the two smartest franchises in the NFL because they look at situations and say, okay, that guy can make us better. Why not go get him? And they've done that. They say, all right, you know what? Jalen Hurts didn't really have a go-to pass catcher last year. Let's go get him A.J. Brown to put with Devontae Smith. All right, we need, maybe a little bit more help in the secondary. James Bradbury's a free agent. Let's go get him. Oh, we can trade for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Let's go trade for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And then they get Robert Quinn as well at the deadline, and then they add the aforementioned Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. Like the Eagles, and to counterpoint with the 49ers, they said, all right, you know what? We feel like we're playing in an NFC that, as Evan mentioned, nobody wants to be good. Like nobody is taking control of this conference. Let's go get Christian McCaffrey. And then what does he do in his first full week with the team? He does something that hasn't been done since LaDainian Tomlinson in 2005. He throws a touchdown, he catches a touchdown, he runs for a touchdown against the Rams. And he's been the way that they have used him. Like in Mexico City, he didn't seem like that big a factor. He had 16 touches and I believe over 100 yards from scrimmage. I would have to look back at the numbers, but he was still effective. Like it's the fact that the 49ers are finding a way to keep all of their mouths fed. Each guy, Ayuk had a really big game a couple weeks ago. Debo had that really long run against the Cardinals. Kittle had 2 touchdowns. Like they're just finding a way to keep all these guys satisfied. And defensively, I understand as the Saints, pitching a shutout in the NFL is hard. I'm not gonna, say, oh, it was Andy Dalton. I don't care. The fact that they did that and the way that they kept, especially in the red zone. I mean, they were knocking on the door with Kamara. Yeah. So I'm not going to ever say, oh, it was against, I don't care. Getting a shutout in the NFL is very hard. So kudos to the 49ers. They're my pick right now over the Philadelphia Eagles, just because this core has been there, done that a few times. They've been to 2 NFC championship games. They've been to a Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts is very fun. Nick Sirianni is a good coach. None of them have won a playoff game yet. And I think that's not nothing when we get into January. And look, if we get an Eagles 49ers NFC championship game in Philadelphia, then we are very, very lucky NFL fans, and I will be pleased with whomever comes out. But if I had to pick right now, I would pick San Francisco.
I want the Niners to play the Cowboys so badly.
Like as you should, because the Cowboys are the Cowboys until proven otherwise.
Well, I mean, it's like the Cowboys in general going up against this type of defense would just be hilarious.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So, the 49ers are going to win the NFC. I know that seems like an aggressive thing to say, but like, I just don't see outside of like injuries, right? Barring injuries, like the Niners are going to go through this playoff.
But you can't turn off injuries when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers, Evan. Like that's the problem.
That's the last team you're allowed to turn off.
Yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is, if there are no injuries, here's how I feel. Mm-hmm. If there's injuries, you can't. What are you going to do?
I just think with this point with the Niners, we just have to be like, it depends on who's injured for the 49ers when we're at the end of this.
It's not when, it's who.
Right.
Well, I think getting Eric Armstead back is great, and not rushing him.
But at what cost? Who's getting removed for Eric Armstead's return? Who will it be?
Elijah Mitchell had a couple good games back, but Jordan Mason looked really good. I'm not worried about that at all. I'm really worried about Christian McCaffrey. Like as fun as it is to watch him, every time he touches the ball, I cringe a little.
Well, it is interesting too. Did you read the Connor Orr piece in SI today on Jimmy Garoppolo? I would highly encourage everybody to go check it out on si.com/NFL. It was a really, really insightful piece. And it was something that I had not really realized. And you were talking about like Jimmy Garoppolo not throwing any picks. And one of the things that's working for the Niners is just finding the Elijah Mitchells, the Juwan Jennings of the world, and just winning that way in a lot of different ways. Jadarius Ward, and just they're just extremely well built, and that was one of the essences of the piece. But he had this stat in it that kind of caught me off guard, where he said, "quote he is talking about Jimmy Garoppolo, he is according to Football Outsiders third in the NFL." In yards above replacement, a composite of his expected points added per down and completion percentage over expectation is the 7th best in the NFL. Though tellingly, Garoppolo is the only quarterback in the top 10 without a positive completion percentage over expectation rating. Another thing that I thought was fascinating is he's more than 60% of his total yardage depends on the catch and run ability of his best receivers. And they talk about and cite like, and it makes sense when you watch them. It's like Debo is so good at breaking tackles, that Christian McCaffrey is so good at breaking tackles. George Kittle is maybe the best tight end in history at breaking tackles. And they built this whole offense about being physical. And it makes sense that they throw short and then they're not making Jimmy Garoppolo have to take crazy chances down the field. And the ball is not in the air all that long this year with Jimmy Garoppolo. They just have physical freaks all over the place that people are like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to tackle this person, because tackling is down and tackling is the worst that it's ever been in the NFL. They pivoted to like, see if you can bring them down. Like they might get hurt, but these guys all want contact and they are all daring you to tackle them. And most teams cannot. And it was really, really fascinating to read.
And that's the thing that I think people need to understand. Like, I think it's in people's DNA and instinct to be like, oh no, Jimmy sucks. Like Jimmy's terrible. But like every issue that people have had with Jimmy, like, oh, well, he only his first read, or, oh, he can't throw the deep ball, or, he can't go through progressions. Everything. Not only has he done that this year, but he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL at all of these things that people said he couldn't do. On top of that, you could put Mike Vick in this offense, right? You could put Josh Allen in this offense, and Kyle Shanahan is still going to run it exactly how he's running it right now, because he believes in 1,000 cuts. He believes that his scheme will get the players open and they will make their plays in space. He's not going, maybe he would take a couple more deep shots a game, but I don't think so. I really don't think so. I mean, like, George Kittle is one of the best deep ball receivers in the tight end position that I think we've seen in a long time, and he doesn't even throw him to Kittle. So
they don't even do play action all that much.
No, but when they do, Jimmy's like,
that's the thing, is like the reason that they don't do it all that much is like when they do it, it's like teams just don't know what to do, and that's great for Kittle on those bootlegs and stuff like that. I mean, they're in good shape. I'm excited to see it. And it's just wild to think about, like, the final 3 of 4 quarterbacks in the NFC might be Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jalen Hurts. It's just
Tua.
Tua.
Yeah, Tua is statistically one of the best, if not best, quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
Yeah, it's just wild. We spend so much time arguing about who the best is: the Herberts, the Burrows, whoever, Trevor Lawrence's, and it's like, all right, the NFC really might come down to Kirk Cousins versus Jalen Hurts in the NFC Championship game. What do we really know? Like, it could be Jimmy Garoppolo versus Kirk Cousins, the Kyle Shanahan Bowl, where he's like, I'm a winner either way. If it's
whoever wins gets my love. Yeah. I will say this: all in the Niners rant on this. The Niners get to play the Dolphins without Terran Armstead. Was that one of their best one of the best tackles in the league? And then also go play the Bucks, where they will not have. Yeah,
the Bucks are headed for a wild offseason,
and the right tackle on the Miami Dolphins too. I should say that too. Will also be out against the game, but the Bucks
is out for a while too. I think.
Trent Wirfs is going to be out for at least the Niners game. So it's like, it is the worst big open highway
in the NFL this year. Like, the Bucks have problems all over the place. Like, the funniest ending is the Panthers with Sam Darnold winning the NFC South. This is what the world needs. I need the Panthers winning this division. That is where I'm at right now with the sicko conference or sicko division that is the NFC South. Your team plays tonight, Jarrett. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Doesn't look like they're making the playoffs this season. I mean, it's gotten pretty bad. George Pickens, though, pretty good, because George Pickens is at this point where he is now comfortable wearing pictures of George Pickens in his wardrobe when he's getting off the plane. So that's how you know when a player is becoming a superstar, is when you're comfortable doing that. But what is going on with the Steelers? And I mean, is there any path to them still climbing out of the gutter and getting close to 500 and saving Tomlin's streak?
No. I assume you want more than that. So
it's just like what Steelers fans all just feel this fall. It's just like, no.
Yeah, I mean, I've long stopped like just feeling anything with this team this season. They've just taken away all of my. I'm numb at this point. Mm-hmm. So let's see. They got Indianapolis tonight. They're currently 3-7. Mm-hmm. So I mean, if they win, they get to 4-7. Then they go to Atlanta next week. So I mean, decent chance they can get to 5-7. But you know, that's speaking as if they are themselves a good football team, which they are not. And a lot of that, it's same old song throughout the entire season. It's the offensive coordinator, it's the quarterback. Both of them are bad.
How much does TJ Watt not playing affect this?
Yeah, I mean, that was certainly a thing, but at the same time, like, you can't sit there and say, "Oh, we don't have TJ Watt. That's why, you know, we give up 35 points to the Eagles. That's why Kenny Pickett throws 3 interceptions against the Dolphins. That's why, you know, the Buffalo Bills have a 98-yard touchdown pass when they down them inside the 2. Like, that save the no. Mm-hmm. One guy, yes, TJ Watt's fantastic. There's still Cam Hayward's an all-pro. He's on that defense still. Micah Fitzpatrick, he's an all-pro. He's still on that defense. I don't want to hear that excuse that, oh, TJ Watt's not there, therefore that's why they stink. No, having him back definitely helps, but they stink because 1, Matt Canada is a bad offensive coordinator. 2, Kenny Pickett is a bad quarterback. And 3, Mike Tomlin's stubborn. So those are
Has Kenny Pickett been that bad? Like, is there any signs of that he's a franchise guy?
If there is, I haven't seen him. Now look, I'm going in this with I don't want Kenny Pickett to be bad. Like, mm-hmm. let me say that. Like, all these Steeler fans come at me like, "Oh, you just hate Kenny." I don't hate Kenny Pickett. I hated that he was selected by the Steelers. Absolutely, I didn't like the pick at all. I don't think he's going to be good. When they put him in against the Jets, I think a lot of people were ready for it. I myself was like, put in Pickett. Like, what is there to lose? And look, I was excited after that game. You know, he came in, he ran for 2 touchdowns. They were up 10. He threw a couple interceptions, one of which was, I would say both of which were not his fault. So after that game, I was like, all right, optimism. Perhaps something gets better. Even the Buffalo game, like, he's starting his first career start against the best team in football. He didn't look absolutely lost. But since then, man, I've seen there's been zero progression. He doesn't see the field well. Ben Roethlisberger, who, by the way, does a podcast now, and he just retired and became hilarious. Go watch Footballing on YouTube with Ben Roethlisberger. It's so funny. But he was talking about.
Does he talk honestly? Does he speak honestly about the?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But he was talking about the Saints game. Mm-hmm. And who did he? I want to say he had Bob Pompiani, who's a local Pittsburgh sports guy here. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about Kenny's performance, and Bob asked Ben what he thought of Kenny. And he's like, the first play from scrimmage, Kenny had Deontay Johnson wide open for a 75-yard touchdown and just didn't look at him. And I was like, all right, that's Ben talking. I think, you know, I went back though and watched it. I was like, all right, is Ben just saying this because if he was out in the field, he would have thrown it? He's absolutely right. Deontay had 2 steps on the guy covering him. There was only a single high safety cover 1 who wasn't all the way across the field yet. If Kenny, I don't know whether it's that he doesn't trust his arm or he just knows he can't throw that deep, but he is missing open guys. And we can blame Matt Canada for his bad play calling all we want. That is a problem. Matt Canada is bad. So is Kenny Pickett. And you know what? I was on board with, like, you know what? Keep losing. Go 3-14, draft CJ Stroud. However, my mind has changed.
Uh-oh.
Because I want them to keep losing,
Mhm.
go 3-14, but instead take Paris Johnson, go into next year with Kenny Pickett, suck again, and then get Caleb Williams from USC. This is a 2-year plan, gents, and it ends with Caleb Williams and a Steelers uniform and all of my problems being washed away by the grace of that beautiful quarterback.
Hold on, what was the last time the Steelers lost like 26 games in back-to-back seasons? That would be like one of the worst stretches in Steelers football ever, right?
The last time they had a losing record was 2003. They went 6-10 that year. Let's go. You know what? Let's go. I'll get it pulled up.
Because what you want is just not something that Evan, myself, and you have seen in our lifetime from Pittsburgh.
I mean, hey, all good things come to an end. So let me see if there is a stretch that bad. So they lost 19 games from 98 to 99. They went 7-9 in 1998 and then 6-10 in 1999.
Okay.
26 games. Yeah, I don't think we're going to find a stretch until we get
That's
to
what
like the Hoover administration. but yeah, this would be, a 24 year thing where it would be some unprecedented stuff for a while. However, I am all on board with it. All on board. And obviously Steelers fans being Steelers fans are going to be like, okay, what are they going to say about Mike Tomlin now that he can't boast? Oh, he's never had a losing record, which, by the way, I'm kind of on board with. Because I'm tired of hearing that about Mike Tomlin. You know how many playoff wins he has in the last 10 years? 2.
I was going to say, I thought 1. I was like, okay, 2. Oof.
2.
Steelers fans turning on Mike Tomlin. You heard it here first. Jarrett Bailey wants Mike Tomlin out. He wants Pat Narduzzi to reunite with Kenny Pickett to get this thing moving.
Why is Matt Canada still coaching for the Steelers?
I feel like it's the Steelers. Just they don't do that.
No, well, hold on. Before we just go there, why is Matt Canada still coaching for the Steelers? Why is Nathaniel Hackett still coaching for the Broncos?
That's a bigger question.
Why is Cliff Kingsbury still coaching for the Cardinals? Why are these teams such cowards? Fire your coaches.
They are. And in terms of Pittsburgh, the only thing that would make sense to me is that Kenny Pickett's already having a rough go of it. Firing his offensive coordinator probably wouldn't help. That would be my only guess. He's not going to be there next year. Whomever they go out and get had better be outside the organization, because the Steeler way of hiring from within just keeps biting them in the butt. And I'm tired of Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin, I like Mike Tomlin. His absolute worst attribute is hiring coordinators. He is god awful at it. Because before this, it was Randy Fiechner. The only other time he's hired from outside the organization was Todd Haley as offensive coordinator. And what happened when he did that? Oh, Ben Roethlisberger had the greatest 5-year stretch of his career. Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell were part of the offense, and Todd Haley. Now, Ben and Todd Haley didn't necessarily get along, but they put up really good numbers and were a consistent playoff team and were one of the best offenses in the NFL throughout that stretch. So, I don't know. Mike Tomlin needs to get his crap together because, do I think that Mike Tomlin will get fired? No. That's just not what the Steelers do. They're not going to fire Mike Tomlin. He's going to have that job for however long he wants it.
Do you think he gets a statue?
Does he get a statue? I don't know. Maybe. Probably not. They didn't give one for Cowher. I don't think they'll give one to Tomlin.
Okay. Is there a chance
if he wins another Super Bowl, maybe?
Okay. I wonder with Tomlin, because he's 50. He's in that Sean Payton zone right now, where Sean Payton was looking at the writing on the wall, where he was like, all right, Breeze is gone. Kamara is he's about to be priced out and a lot of tread on those tires. I don't think Jameis Winston can get me back to the Super Bowl. I think I'm just going to go ahead and eject. I have a fun life in Southern California. I can just appear on the herd once a week. I'm going to live my life and really enjoy it this season. And we'll see what happens, because I'm just going to be the most sought after head coach. Like, I wonder if Tomlin follows suit. I wonder if he would be in for a rebuild. I think he cares about his record. I think he doesn't want to do that he doesn't want to be remembered as the Pittsburgh coach who maybe had to usher in the worst 2 to 3 year stretch of Steelers football ever. Is it possible Tomlin's, this is it? We're nearing the end.
No, I don't think so. Just because as somebody who's been a fan of this team for a really long time, has covered this team now for the past few years, Tomlin just seems like a guy. Now, the one thing that I do come back to with him, and it's really recent, watch his interview with Ryan Clark and the guys on the pivot.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I think like that, if that thought enters my mind, it's like, would he pull the Sean Payton there and just kind of sit it out? He is a guy, and I believe him when he says, he has a really good line in there. It says, "There's so many guys in this league that run away from coaching. I run to coaching," and I believe him when he says that. And if you watch the entire interview, you understand why guys love playing for him. So the fact that, do you remember last year when I think he was on the radar for the USC job, or he's on the radar for the LSU job, and he just came out right away before anybody could ask him about it? He's basically saying, "I'm not going anywhere." I think that he loves the team. I think he loves the city. I think that he loves the Rooney family for largely. I mean, when he was hired, nobody expected him to be hired as the head coach. He had been an assistant with Tampa Bay, with Minnesota, and he wasn't the guy that people expected to get it. So I think that he does feel indebted to the organization. I don't think they're going to fire him. I don't think he's leaving. He doesn't seem like a guy that would do TV, in my opinion. I think that if he were to take a year off or whatever and quote unquote retire, he would just chill with his kids and his wife. But I don't think he's going anywhere.
He's also an East Coast guy. I think he's a lot of deep ties in Virginia, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like LA and getting away and being like, oh, he could be the head coach of the Chargers or anything. I don't think he's interested in that.
No, I don't think he is either. So if I had to guess right now, he's not going to get fired. He's going to have the job as long as he. Now, if they go on 5 consecutive losing seasons or 3 consecutive losing seasons, the seat will start heating up. But it would take a lot for him to get fired, because the Steelers went through a couple rough patches with Bill Cowher. They didn't fire him. I would be shocked if they didn't give Tomlin that same patience.
Yeah. Well, we'll see tonight. Big one against the Colts, and we'll see if this.
Bet the under on that game, by the way.
Well, hold on. Matt Ryan is going to be cooking. We'll see. Biggest surprise around the league for you, Evan, was where? What was the most surprising result for you?
So, I mean, yesterday or this?
Yeah, just yesterday. Or it could be Thanksgiving. What was the most surprising? The result was just, you were pretty stunned that that's how it transpired.
I mean, it wasn't really anything crazy, but to me, the Raiders winning and the Broncos losing were both God, how are the Broncos this bad? The stat that I saw, that is something no team has lost this badly with this little of points in and 2000, just scoring this little of points or something this is insane that Russell Wilson, first and foremost, is Russell Wilson fully washed, or is this just a bad football situation for everybody involved?
I'll let you go first here, Jarrett.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Russell Wilson and you come into this situation with, Denver's got talent, we know that, and you put up 14.3 points per game, that's a problem. Now, Nathaniel Hackett isn't going to be there next year. Russell Wilson absolutely is going to be. So whomever they bring in, we're going to be able to tell right away, oh, this is just a Nathaniel Hackett problem. Or, and Denver hopes to God it isn't this, or they're going to sit back and be like, oh no, our quarterback's horrible, and we're on the books for him till at least 2026. Because if we cut him, it's over $100 million in dead money, and we literally cannot do that. So strap in, Broncos country, because it's going to be a bumpy one.
One thing I do want to know, did you guys see Mike Purcell, the Denver Broncos, absolutely scream at Russell Wilson? What do you
I would love to know what he said, because Russell had to say something to Purcell, because it was like one of those where he heard something and he like pauses, like he turned back, like there was no he started that conversation.
He wasn't going to the sideline to have an altercation. He was just jogging off, and he definitely heard something.
I bet you it was probably like Russell was. I mean, I don't even know the circumstances, but Russ is probably like, "All right, come on, defense, we really need something from you," and he's like, "From us."
Yeah, no, it was something pumped up. It was like, thanks for doing that. Like, just thanks for getting another stop. We'll take it from here. Something like that. And it's like, will you? Will you take it from here?
Because Russell Wilson is going to say some corny stuff. And if you're Mike Purcell and your defense is playing well and they just keep selling you out, you're probably like, I'm over it. I'm over the fake Russell Wilson.
He's probably jogging off the field. And he's like, I'm praying for you. He's like, enough with the Jesus crap. How many Denver Broncos do you think actually like Russell Wilson, by the way? Like, what's the over-under number like of people in the locker room, coaches and players alike, that genuinely like Russell Wilson?
0.
I'm saying like 4.5.
0. I genuinely
don't think
I don't think anybody likes Russell Wilson. But
like
the reason
that
why
Kyle Brandt said a few weeks ago, where he just basically called him a phony, it just seems really on the nose.
I don't think so. Okay, so let me answer this as best as I can. I believe that there are people that are too stupid to really kind of like see the minor details with human behavior. So I feel like the people that are too dumb to get into a room with Russell Wilson and notice that it's all bullshit, right? Like they probably are like, "Oh, Russ is great," right? If you just don't have the analytical mind to be able to like see, everything he's saying is fake. Now, that said, those people aside, every single other person I think hates him because they go, this is all an act. Like none of this is real. And I'm sure Seattle could put up with it because they were winning. He's throwing, 4 touchdowns a game. But if he's not doing that, and he's now probably at the worst version of this ego trip that he's always been on, like the guy literally he seems like he cannot answer a question, whether it comes from a player or a reporter or a coach or anything, with an honest, genuine answer. It's always, what should I, this Russell Wilson,
very robotic,
right? And so like, if you're all of these people and you're just constantly around it and it never turns off and you're losing, like, how could you like that? They'll probably all hate him. I bet you the offensive linemen probably like him because they're like, he seems nice.
Wow.
I scorched earth here from about people with when you were talking about like people with no people skills, I thought you were I think that Russell Wilson's just too stupid to realize that nobody likes him. I think
no. That's sociopath stuff. That's full blown. A guy like that with that ego, like that's not too stupid. I mean, come on. You have to remember, this is a guy that literally, after losing like 3 games in a row, playing like trash, on air, like goes, Broncos country, let's ride, and like walked off after they just lost. It's so a part of who he is as a being to like play this character that he's lost any like.
That's a good way of putting it. He's playing a character.
Yeah, like
he feels like Jeter to me. Where Jeter was so guarded for all, like the Jeter stories just never really came out. It was just like the Jeter brand was so big, it felt like Jeter was a brand and not a human at a certain point where you were like, I don't really know what Derek Jeter thinks about anything genuinely. Like he's been so good at just keeping a very neutral public face, and Russell Wilson, I feel like I still don't know anything about him. I think there's just so much that he has just put up. There's just so much vagueness to what I actually think about Russell Wilson. And I don't think he'll ever let anybody in genuinely. I don't think you'll ever get the genuine behind the curtain book on Russell Wilson. I don't think Jeff Pearlman's ever doing the Russell Wilson book. I don't think that's ever coming out. And I don't think we'll ever have a great read on who he actually is. And like, I think teammates and what we're learning there is weird. I think he's addicted because when you read the reports, like the plane stuff, right? Where I don't even remember now. What was he doing?
Was doing
like
stretches.
Yeah. Like, I think he thinks that kind of stuff is inspiring. And I think he really does in his heart of hearts think these are all positive things. I don't think he reads the room well at all. I think he blocks a lot of that stuff out. And it's just like, hey, it's kind of like Shelby from The Wilds on Amazon Prime, where she's just like trying to lead and thinks she's leading. This is a very niche comparison,
I
but
have
for my
no
I was
idea.
gonna say I have no idea what you're talking about, but you do, you buddy. You're on fire.
we love this show, and it's just she's a Texas girl who strong personality type, but like addicted to competition. Seems like they're just overcompensating in a way where they're just, you're like, what are you really like? This is just not how human beings are. You can't keep going like this day in, day out. Like there's a breaking point.
You think that Russell Wilson is essentially bought into his own act?
Yes.
So much to the point where like he's like he believes it now. And then so when he believes it, if other people don't, he's like, oh, they just don't get it.
Right. I think that's where we're at.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's ever going to let himself, because I think he thinks it's a net positive for who he is as a quarterback. I think he thinks he needs that to succeed. And I think he uses that to be like, oh, this is how I get back. Like, I think he thinks it's going to get him back to being an elite NFL quarterback.
What do you
do? Go ahead.
Real quick. I need this answered. What do you think Russell Wilson does if he knows for a week there's no cameras on him and his family's gone? Like if he were to just have
I think he just works out
to himself, do you think he just
works out, and I mean reads? Do
you think like would he go like to the driving range? Do you think he'd go see a movie? Nope. Like
you ever seen Dahmer on Netflix?
Oh wow. Oh my god.
You think he just like is just like going? Yeah.
Dude, it would not shock me in the least if in like 10 years we find out that Russell Wilson just has bodies under his house.
Oh my god. Okay. No, I don't think that's the case. I don't think that is the case. I just think he's Derek Jeter in a way, where that's my gut, is he's just so bought into him being a brand. It's kind of like Brady.
But
Brady's
Jeter was a brand. Jeter was a brand.
Right.
Jeter was a brand. I don't know how else to say that because it is so true.
Yeah, like, you say it over and over again, it'll start making sense.
But Derek Jeter was like literally one of the biggest. Like he made being a baseball player bigger than it was, because it was at a time when nobody cared about baseball, and he was still that guy. Russell Wilson isn't that guy.
But I think he thinks he is. And I think he thinks the Russell brand is that.
But I feel like there's got to be some part of it, though, of like Derek Jeter got that way because he literally was it. And it's like, you know, because the guy out that, if you see a homeless person out on the street that's running around going, I'm Superman, it's like, well, he thinks he is. Is that enough? Like, I mean, Russell Wilson's like, oh, like, dog, you have one, like, he has like his logo on a Nike Metcon, and it's like the Russell Wilson shoe, and it's on like the 4th page of like training shoes and Nike. Like, I forgot it even existed. Like, what is he a brand?
I don't think he knows how to be buddies with his teammates either. I think he's been so secluded 100%. And shut off, and I think he's probably a good family man, and I think he's doing all of that. I think that's his identity, where it's like he goes home and he's like, family only, I'm gone, like no teammates are allowed to hit me up, I'll see y'all at practice tomorrow. He's so secluded and cut off from the rest of the team. I think is another part of this.
I'm not a religious person, but I bet church with Russell Wilson is the most awful experience.
I don't know. I can't speak to that. I don't know him personally, but I just think no one will know him really personally.
There's no situation with Russell Wilson that isn't an awful experience. I guarantee you, if you were standing behind him at a Subway and you had to listen to him order his sandwich, that would be a miserable situation, because he would probably be like, how's your day going? Working hard or hardly working? And you're like, oh,
he definitely says that when he goes,
you know what I mean? Like, and he's gonna be like, what do you think about the turkey? It's like the girl behind the counter is like, no, what?
I don't know, dude. I get paid $9 an hour. Just order your sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you're Sean Payton, do you want Chargers or Cardinals, Jarrett?
I would take the Chargers job.
Why?
Because I see how Justin Herbert leads his team, and I see Kyler Murray freaking out on the sidelines with his teammates every other week. And that's more than enough for me. Plus, Justin Herbert's the better quarterback. If Sean Payton, now the Chargers, I think that they should absolutely be in on this, because Brandon Staley is very clearly not the right guy. He's a fantastic defensive coordinator, but even then, the defense has been really bad this year. So, yeah, they should be a team that's absolutely in on this. Payton should clean house because Joe Lombardi is not a good offensive coordinator.
Didn't he used to wasn't Lombardi a Payton guy years ago in New Orleans?
I know he was in Detroit for a minute.
And that was Campbell, him and Campbell obviously coming from New Orleans. I'm pretty sure Lombardi's a Payton coaching tree guy.
You might be right. He
might stay as OC if Payton were to come in.
With that in mind, but theoretically speaking, like, yeah, I mean, if I'm Sean Payton, I want the Chargers job more than I want the Cardinals job, just because Herbert is the better quarterback. I think he's got a better head on his shoulders. I think he's a better leader. I think they have a better roster when they're healthy, which apparently is never. Like, every single year with the Chargers, isn't it? Like, it's always something.
I said it on the podcast. I was like, I don't know why people keep doing this. It's like, it's not a Herbert thing where Theo Ashford of the Pod Stay Hot was all in, had him in the Super Bowl. I'm like, they're not making the playoffs. What are we doing? The Chargers are going to get hurt. They are going to struggle. They're going to flirt around 500, and then they're going to be fighting for their wild card lives. And we're like, how is this happening? Because there's talent everywhere, and they should be one of the best teams in the AFC, and yet here they are, once again, not being the best team in the AFC. There's something wrong with this franchise. They're cursed in a way that not even moving them from San Diego to Los Angeles can cure.
Yeah, whatever it is, it just seems to carry on, and it's not good.
I think I would take the Cardinals job. I don't want to deal with paying Patrick Mahomes twice a year. I think the Chiefs just have this on lock to the point where I'm like, I don't want any part of this. I want to win the division. I want to be able to win now. You have D-Hop locked in. You have more of those win now guys.
You know what, man? You make a good point.
Listen, I understand.
I think Evan's going to vehemently disagree here.
No, I mean, I understand your point. Like, your Chiefs point alone is aggressively valid, and I think something that you should understand and agree with. Right now, though, the Chargers are only 3 games back from Mahomes and the Chiefs. And Sean Payton, one of the best coaches ever, also known to be one of the best quarterback, minded, like, get the best out of your quarterback head coaches, has the opportunity to play and coach with one of the most talented and gifted quarterbacks that we've seen in the last 30 years. Like, how do you pass that up? I understand, how
the NFC's more open, man.
Once again, I completely agree. I understand that. But, like, if you're Sean Payton, you got to head coach for Drew Brees, once in a lifetime experience. You get to go head coach with a guy that could end up being better than Drew Brees.
I think arm talent wise, he's definitely already better than Drew Brees. Now,
I mean, overall career.
Yeah, I know.
I think he can have more Super Bowls, better quarterback, all the above.
Point being that Justin Herbert has a large arm, but now that I think about it, Sean Payton is just all Drew Brees did was throw like a bunch of really accurate 10 to 15-yard balls, and that's not who Justin Herbert is. And I really hope to God that Sean Payton doesn't go there now.
So he needs Jimmy Garoppolo, baby.
That's what yeah, there you go.
No, but I will say this. If Sean Payton goes to the Cardinals, for the example you gave, Niners been beating Sean Payton up and down the NFC for a long time, and they don't look like they're getting bad anytime soon. So that would be a death wish for him.
We'll see. It seems like no matter what, he's going to be back in the NFL next year. He's going to have his pick. And the Cowboys, another dark horse, but with the Cowboys playing really well, it looks like McCarthy might stick around for it. It's just a year-to-year basis with Mike McCarthy in Dallas.
Dude, if the Cowboys went to the NFC Championship and lost, I'd still fire Mike McCarthy.
I mean, Jerry and Stephen Jones might be the owners. And I mean, the Astros just moved on from their GM James Click after winning the World Series. They still cleaned because there was still friction between their owner Jim Crane and Click, and there's been a lot of comparisons that Jim Crane is becoming the modern baseball equivalent of Jerry Jones. There's something about these Texas owners that there's something off. The Raiders, have they turned the corner, Jarrett, for you following the Seahawks victory?
I kind of want to say yes, but at the same time, I remember that Josh McDaniels is their head coach. Like, at this point, he's playing with house money because he knows he's not getting fired. He knows that Mark Davis isn't going to pay 3 head coaching staffs. He's not going to do it. So Josh Jacobs is obviously fantastic. He had over 300 yards from scrimmage yesterday. 223
Bonkers.
Ground. What's that?
Bonkers, just like a bonkers day from Josh Jacobs.
Went absolutely off, and the way that he ended the game with an 86-yard touchdown run, it was fantastic. Derek Carr, by the way, first play of the game, Derek Carr throws a pick. I think every Raiders fan is just like, oh my God, what is? And then, kept it composed. Raiders played. I mean, it was a fun game to watch. It was very back and forth. But their defense just allowed a lot of points. Defense isn't good. Their offensive line isn't good. In terms of the rest of the teams in the AFC, I mean, the Raiders are still 4-7. I don't think they're going anywhere. If they can end on a relatively positive streak, maybe they take something forward in the next season. I still don't think Derek Carr's back there next year. I think that the Raiders, I think McDaniels is going to try to draft one of these guys and inevitably ruin them. So whether it be Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, I think he wants to get somebody. He wants to get his guy, quote unquote. So yeah, regardless,
trade for Bailey Zappi.
Trade for Bailey Zappi. Hey, brought Jarrett Stidham over. Might as well go get all the other.
I mean, Josh Jacobs isn't going to be there next year either.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs is going to be a free agent. They are going to pay him. So yeah, I think that there's going to be a lot of new faces on the Raiders next year, and Josh McDaniels isn't going to be. He's going to be there. So
I just would give him a little bit of time. And it's also like, you look at these Mike Mayock drafts, man. I mean, Jonathan Abram cut. You look at the Cleveland Farrell pick. You just go up and down Leatherwood. I mean, it is rough.
Yeah, it was bad.
Like, it's rough what the kind of situation that he left them. And then the Seahawks on the flip side, I mean, they're playing with house money. We talked about house money. They might have the number 1 overall pick in the draft and be a playoff team next year. Like, that pick conveying to Seattle for Russell Wilson is going to be an all-timer.
If you're Seattle, you got the number 1 overall pick theoretically. You take a quarterback, right? You're not riding Geno Smith into the future. This is I don't know. Hey, lightning in a bottle. I like Geno Smith. He is not going to do this for 3 to 5 years.
I will
if Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, are we sure?
That is by far one of the saddest circumstances. That breaks my heart because you're right. Like, if the opportunity is there to draft one of the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL, they have to do it. But I don't think that it has to be the cut that you think it's immediate. Right, I think they can do a Trey Lance situation.
Oh yeah, they could definitely keep Geno around for 2023.
Yeah, hey, we're gonna let Geno have 1 more year, and if he gets, listen, remember they did this before with Matt Flynn. If it is by some way that big of a difference, and in preseason practice, we just know if any team knows how to say sorry, Bucko. It's the team that did it with Russell Wilson.
And a coach knows how to do it. It's Pete Carroll, considering he did it with Russell Wilson.
So,
I mean, are you all convinced on these quarterbacks? Like, Bryce Young scares me with the size. I love Bryce Young in college, but there's still something that scares me there. CJ Stroud just feels like Ohio State Mac Jones to me. I don't think there's enough to get excited about Stroud. I don't know.
Nothing to do with Bryce Young and how small he is.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can look at Baker and Manziel and all of these little guys. I mean, he doesn't have the athleticism that Kyler has.
No, but he's a much better passer than Kyler. Much better passer.
Right. And you know who was a great passer? Baker.
Yeah.
In college.
I think the comparison that Bryce is mini Aaron Rodgers, I think, is this most spot on. Where it's like, if you watch Aaron Rodgers' Cal tape and early Green Bay stuff, I mean, he is always keeping his eyes downfield when he's dancing around. He is finding little ways to get the ball where he wants it to go, where you're like, I don't understand how Bryce Young was able to avoid 19 devastating hits to find just the tight end just seep out of behind a linebacker for an easy 15-yard gain. You just have no idea how he's able to do it.
We're also acting like he can't put on weight.
It's not weight, it's a height. And the weight has not been there all year. Like, he's what do you think he is?
195, I think.
There's no way that man's 195. That's rounding up. If they're calling him 195.
I was going to say, they might have him listed at that.
He's listed at 194. I'm seeing that. Who's 194 in the NFL right now? Which quarterback? Right. I mean,
Lamar was pretty small for a time. He wasn't 194.
That's the thing. 194 at 6'1" is very different than 194 at 5'9".
Yeah. Mahomes came in the league, it looks like 225 pounds.
like my fighting weight at 6'1", like, you know, like working out every day and lifting and eating and all the above is like 186. So to hear that this guy is 195 at that, I don't think so, man.
Well, and another thing with this too, you know, people will point out, okay, there's never been a quarterback successful this you know, small in terms of weight. Well, remember when Kyler Murray's hand size was the biggest thing to talk about for 2 months, and the fact that he's only 5'9", like, you know, barriers are meant to be broken. And plus the quarterback position is so overly protected in today's NFL. I think he would be okay.
I just would Jalen Carter, having watched a lot of him, and if you want to rebuild this defensive line, you want to keep building in the trenches first, and you're okay with keeping this rebuild going. You traded Russell Wilson for a reason. I don't think you want to skip a step and just reach on a quarterback. I would go Jalen Carter, Will Anderson if I'm the Seahawks, and keep building this thing.
Yeah, I won't pretend to be a college football expert. I'm not. I don't start watching like college football anything until
Does Slippery Rock have college football?
Yeah, PSAC champions 5 out of the last 7 years, Chase Thomas.
Okay, that was disrespectful on my end. That was not intended. Not intended. They're good.
Final 8 of the the Division II national playoffs 2 years ago.
Okay,
2 years ago sounds right. But
what's
yeah, no, I don't. So fun story about Slippery Rock. Our school name, it's Slippery Rock the Rock. That's literally our team name. Now our mascot's a lion. But we're not the Slippery Rock Lions. We're Slippery Rock.
Wait, it's a lion and you're called the Rock as your mascot?
Yeah. Like Pride Rock?
I
thought we were doing some Sean Connery. I thought we were doing Sean Connery at first.
No. Our mascot's name is Rocky.
Okay. And it's a lion.
He's a lion.
Rocky Mountain Lions?
That's so strange.
Michigan shows the Slippery Rock score at halftime every game. Just because they like the name of our school.
Huh. I thought y'all had a weird one, like a weird granite rock at some point.
They used to. They replaced it.
By the way, real quick, just because I have to, you guys have both seen The Rock, right? With Nicolas Cage?
No.
I know what it is, just haven't seen it.
I don't know what it is either.
There's so many movies I haven't seen. I'm not a big like pop culture movies guy.
Evan's furious with us.
Left.
Yeah, okay. He's furious. YouTube.com/ChaseNotes to see Evan eject from the chat. We'll end on this, guys. Jarrett, when you look at the AFC North, the Bengals are streaking. The Ravens lose on a ballsy 2-point conversion try to Zay Jones by the Jacksonville Jaguars. You look at the Browns getting Deshaun Watson back this week. Steelers I think we can go ahead and cross them off.
Maybe you could stick a fork in them.
Who's winning the AFC North? Or is it the Bengals now? Are they now the favorites? I don't know what to do with the AFC North.
I picked the Bengals to win it in the preseason. I'm not going to change that pick now just because they seem like a more complete team than Baltimore. They're able to finish better than Baltimore. When it comes to the Ravens, I love their defense, and I love the fact that they went on and got Roquan Smith. They're another one of those teams in the NFL. It's just like, okay, he can make us better. Let's go get him. So I appreciate that about them. They're just, I don't know, man. Like the game against Buffalo, they blew. Obviously, the game against Miami, and then they blow this one to Jacksonville. Like those are 3 fourth-quarter leads that they had that were 2 possessions, I think, at one point because they were leading Jacksonville 19-10. So multiple 2-possession games, multiple games that they've had 2-possession leads in the fourth quarter that they just blow. Plus Lamar Jackson, like he's not exactly playing well. That's another big thing for them too. So I don't know. They've got a lot of questions, not just about this season, but going forward. Like, okay, do we really want to pay Lamar Jackson this much money when he's inconsistent? So I think that Cincinnati right now, Joe Burrow's playing really well. They're finding different guys to make play. Like Samaje Perine has 4 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks in light of the Joe Mixon concussion. T. Higgins is starting to go off. Hayden Hurst has become a really viable weapon for them. Defensively, they've been really solid. So if I had to pick right now, yeah, it would be the Browns. I think that it's too far gone. They're 4-7 right now. It's too far back. 3 games out. I think that Cincinnati does have a difficult remaining schedule, so that would be something to pay attention to.
What happens when you win the AFC?
That is what happens when you win the AFC. But they are also a very good team, and I think that they'll be good enough to get to at least 10 wins. I think 10 wins is what they'll get to. If they want 10-7, I think that that'll be enough to win the division.
Do you share that sentiment, Evan?
It's going to be really close with the Ravens and Bengals. I wouldn't be surprised with either or. But the Bengals, having just gone to a Super Bowl last year, I will say if they get hot, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because they were there last year. But they are not playing as well as I expected. So
I think it's still the Ravens. I think they still figure it out.
Baltimore still has the benefit of playing Pittsburgh twice, so that is
a nice benefit.
Yes.
That's so weird to say now, and that rivalry is not going to hit the same.
Wouldn't have been weird if you would have listened to me for the last 3 years. Not that I have a personal opinion on the matter or anything.
Evan Sowards, what can the good folks check out from you? 49er sub, Twitter, 2-minute hot take if you have that for us. What do you got for us tonight?
The Chase Thomas podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Every single form and function of medium that Jarrett Bailey seems to be on, which I think is probably USA Today, The Athletic probably joined recently.
I wish.
Maybe ESPN Deportes. What else?
ESPN The Ocho.
Yeah, right. Nah, man. I wouldn't follow me, so I'm not going to tell you to do that. Go Niners.
There you go. Jarrett, what can the good folks check out from you across all your different outlets this week as well?
What can they check out? Oh, well, listen to the Pump Fake, 2 episodes per week, Tuesday and Fridays. So do that. Subscribe to the Pump Fake newsletter. That comes out usually Wednesday, sometimes Thursday. Depends on when I have the time to finish it. So subscribe to that. I'm going to put that actually back in my bio on Twitter and probably take the podcast link out. I was just testing the waters on that to see what happened. I'll probably put the link to subscribe to the newsletter back in my bio. But yeah, Bear stuff for USA Today, some 49er stuff for Sports Illustrated, some Steelers stuff for Fansided and Sports Illustrated, the occasional Panthers article. So yeah, all over the place. What else am I doing? Yeah, I think that's it.
I like it. Well, thank you as always for making the time, Jarrett. We greatly appreciate it. Evan, thank you as well, my dear friend. And I will talk to you next week. Jarrett, we'll talk again soon.
Yes, sir.